Hey, everybody. Welcome to this session. This has been an awesome 2 days, and I think we only have maybe like 3 or 4 sessions left. This one is going to be great. I've talked to Ashley before, and actually, she's done a lot of sessions at these events that we do. So some of y'all might already know her or have seen her. We're going to get started in a couple of minutes. Just going to give everyone time to get settled in and get connected. I see a lot of people sharing where they're from. I'm curious if y'all have been to one of our webinars before or a previous Standout Summit. Have you seen Ashley speak? We do Standout Summit. This is our 5th year. So, this is our 5th year doing Standout Summit. Last year we did 2. We also did another event called Hire Ready. So, let me know if y'all have been to one of those or if you've seen one of Ashley's sessions at one of those events. Is today the last day for the promo? I believe the discount will be running through the end of the day, Monday, March 3rd, 2025. So that would be this coming Monday. And I'll share the promo code. You can see the QR code on the screen already right here. So if you want to get that 20% off, you can scan the QR code now. I've not seen it before and have not. Okay, so this be your first time seeing a session from Ashley. She's really great. She's been a recruiter. She's a career coach now, so she has a lot of information to share. Yes, last fall. Okay, Joanne. So you went to that would have been Hire Ready. That was a smaller version. I think we only had like 4 or 5 sessions for that. This one's definitely bigger. First time doing the summit. Awesome. First timer. Okay, great. It's good to see everyone here. Yesterday and today are the first summit. Awesome. Um, my first Juan agreed, all very good. What if you have an account already? This is the promo is for new signups only that get the 20% off. Hello from South Jersey. Okay, we're gonna get started. It's 1 o'clock my time. It's on the hour. So thanks everyone for joining. This is gonna be a really great session about job interviewing. If we haven't met yet, I'm Sydney Myers. I'm a team member here at JobScan. In this session, Ashley Watkins is going to share strategies to help you master interviewing. Now, just in case you're wondering about recordings, every session has been recorded. This session is being recorded. You'll get an email after the event with a link to access the recordings. We're also just going to be posting them on our YouTube channel. So if you're subscribed to the JobScan YouTube channel, you'll see them there too. If you're not a JobScan Premium member yet, we're offering 20% off. JobScan Premium offers tools that help you to build a resume, an ATS-friendly resume, optimize your LinkedIn profile, tailor your resume to the job, track your job search, find jobs. It's really a complete job search tool suite. So we're offering 20% off. A lot of people only know about the resume scanner, but it's actually a lot more than that. So the 20% off applies to all of those tools. So you can see that QR code right there, but you can also go to this URL, jobscan.co/promo. You can see the URL below me, jobscan.co/promo/standout25. I think we've also been posting it in the chat, although I know I haven't been doing that. Maybe I should post that now. But you can go to that URL and get 20% off of JobScan Premium. And again, that promo will run through this Monday. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce our speaker for this session. I see 11 people have already scanned the QR code, so awesome. That's great. All right, so let me introduce our speaker. Ashley Watkins is a job search coach with Right Step Resumes. She holds nationally certified resume writer and nationally certified online profile expert designations. So she definitely knows what she's talking about. Her job search advice has been featured in major publications, including Huffington Post, New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. She's best known for positioning leaders to land more interviews and 6-figure salary offers at top-tier brands. She's going to talk to y'all about interview breakthrough, the secret sauce to acing your next job interview with AI. Thank you, Ashley, for being here. I'll hand things over to you.
Hello. I want everybody in the chat to talk to me. I don't want to just talk at you. I know I'm going to give you some information, but I want to make this fun. I don't want to be another boring presentation here. So let's get to it. Let's see. Can you guys see the screen? All right. Cool beans. Y'all give me a thumbs up if you can see this. And I don't want to start talking until you can see everything. All righty. Okay, so today I'm going to talk to you about how to prepare for your in-person or your virtual interview. So we're not going to get into all the systems where you can do where you're talking at the screen and answering the video interview questions. I'm talking about how to answer your common interview questions, whether it is a virtual interview, so say it's a Zoom interview call, or you have something where you're meeting with people in person. It doesn't matter your career level or your industry, you will find something that is helpful to you today. And I'm also going to give you some tips on how to leverage AI to help you prepare for those interviews. So, how to answer those questions, how to do research. We're going to cover all of that today. And then I'm going to talk to you about following up for your interview and how you can use AI to sort of speed up that process so you can ask more robust questions so you can get some information to help you make more educated decisions about job offers. All righty. So, what you can expect today. So, this is going to be an action packed training. Again, we're going to have a conversation today. I want you talking to me in the chat and asking questions. I'm going to try to get to all of your questions as soon as I can. I also have a gift for you. So, if you stay to the end, you have an opportunity to take home a free gift that's going to help you with AI and interviewing. And then I'll give you an opportunity to connect with me. So, if you want to follow me on social media or you actually want to work with me, I'll give you that information as well. So what's up? I see a lot of people in the chat that live places that I want to visit. I see Canada. I just went to Boston. I think in November we were in Boston. I promise I ate my face completely off in Boston. Had a really good time. And somebody I saw was in Chicago. I'm going to Chicago next month. I'm speaking at the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches, the PARWCC. I'm speaking at a conference there in Chicago. So I'm ready to eat there too. So if you haven't guessed already, when I travel, I eat. That's the whole point. All righty. So here's an interview myth that I hear a lot, and I see this a lot of like, especially across LinkedIn. Well, people think just because they have experience in something that will help them get the job. Well, that is the only thing that matters with getting a job or even getting an interview. And that's really not it. Your experience alone is not what's going to get you a job. It's not what's going to get you an interview. You have to be able to market yourself effectively. You also have to be able to communicate your value. So I think a lot of time is spent focusing a lot on resume writing when resume writing is important, but the resume is only a small piece of the hiring process. You still have to be able to back all that stuff up that you said on that resume. You have to be able to back it up in the interview. And so that is really why I started my business in the first place, is to help people see the other side of what really we're looking for when you're talking to recruiters, when you're talking to hiring managers. How is it that you can effectively translate that information from your resume in person so that you can get the job offer? All right. So to be an effective interviewee, what must you have? Right. So you have to be able to research and understand the employer's problem. The interview is a place for you to confirm that you can actually solve a problem for them. The same way that if you are looking at a menu and say you want pizza, you are looking for you to arrive at that restaurant. You've gone online, you've looked at the menu, you see the pizza. When you get there, you want them to know about pizza. You don't want them to be talking to you about tacos, about burgers, and all those things if you're there for pizza. So you've got to be able to speak directly to that employer's problem, their issue. You got to be able to speak their language. You want to be able to show that you're the answer to that problem and that, again, you understand what it is that they're struggling with and you're the only person that can fix it. You want to also be able to highlight your value. And remember that the interview is always a two-way conversation. It's never a time where somebody is just rattling off questions for you. You better have your questions too, because you have to say yes the same way that the recruiter or the hiring team needs to get you to the point of the offer. They need you to say yes the same way that you need them to make you that offer. So nobody has more power than the other person, even though for years it's almost like it's been beat into our head that whoever is interviewing us is the person that holds all the power. Absolutely not. You have power in the interview as well. Remember, they invited you to the interview, so they want you to, and you've got to act like it. So have the confidence when you go into your interviews, because that is what helps you still seal the deal, is your confidence about the things that you can do for them, about the value that you bring, about the experience that you have. Okay, so always remember that you've already earned your spot there. All right. So, one of the big pieces of your interview is actually how well you research and network, because that's how you're going to get the information that you need to ask the questions that you need to ask. So, a lot of times we are on the job market because maybe something went wrong, right? So, maybe you didn't like the management team. Maybe you didn't like the job at all. And maybe you didn't like how the communication went. Maybe you didn't like how you were trained, or maybe you weren't trained at all. So you want to be able to research those things that could have been issues to kind of push you out of your last position, right? You want to be able to ask questions for the next time around so that you don't make some of those same mistakes. So you want to do a lot of damage control when it comes to interviewing. And so the best way to do that is through research and networking. That is where the interview starts, because you've got to do all the research that you need before you start writing that resume, before you even think about going to an interview. You want to go into it prepared so that if something doesn't feel right, then you know that this probably isn't the best opportunity for me, or maybe this is just going to be a stepping stone position for me. So I'm just going to use it to get me to the to the next spot that I want to be in. But you got to know what you're working with, so that you don't make some of the same mistakes that you made before, and then you find yourself job searching again, because job searching sucks. I don't care how much preparation you do, how much information you have, it is not a fun position to be in. So, but there are things that I want to teach you today that will help that experience, really just put you in a better position, as far as education, and put you in a place of confidence. Because remember, if you don't take anything away from this session, remember, confidence is key. All right. So, where do you start when it comes to research and networking? So, one of the quickest things that you can do is go to the company website. You want to try to look at the business team, find out about, what leadership has been up to, find out what kind of projects, what kind of products they sell, find everything that you need to understand the company before you go to that interview. I cannot tell you how many times I have interviewed people and they ask me, well, so what does your company do? That person usually does not get the job, because that is not a question you should ever be asking in an interview. You should have an understanding of the company, what they do, what products they sell, what their customer base is. Really understand their values, at least to a point. Now, there may be other questions that you want to ask to give you more information, but that basic stuff is not what you should be asking questions about. Don't waste your time with that. That's what you're going to research and find that out. If you have contacts within the organization, great. You can find people on LinkedIn, so you can start looking online, on social media. You also can look at a lot of the company reviews. You can look and see what the customers are saying, because, say, for instance, you are a sales and marketing person, so you want to look and see what the customers are saying about the products and services, because that may be something that you can use as part of your pitch, to get more sales, or to help the customers find more features that can help them, right? And then, as far as social media, you can find employees that work at the company. Now, I'm not saying that everybody is going to respond to you, because let's be real here. Everybody will not respond. You may have to send 20, 30, sometimes even 50 messages before you get one person to respond to you. But that one person that's willing to respond to you got to be ready with specific questions for that individual, so you can get the information that you need, or as much of it as you possibly can. Maybe they can point you in the right direction. So again, your confidence is what's going to, seal the deal a lot of the times, but also that confidence is going to get you questions answered, is also going to help you when you are pointing out things that the company may not be aware of as their issue. And then you're able to talk about that in your interview, which then gives you an edge on anybody else who may be going for that same opportunity. Reviews also can be employee reviews. You want to see what past employees are saying. So you can find on different sites like Glassdoor. You also can use companies like, or sites, I think the company is called Blind, or maybe it's teamblind.com. I have to think about what it is later. But anyway, you can find information that real employees are saying about these companies that they're working for. Now, you kind of have to look at some of that information and take it with a grain of salt, simply because when somebody got fired, or maybe they didn't like the management team, or maybe they just weren't a good employee at all, they may have some, some things to say about this company that aren't so good. Everybody is not going to sing the company's praises. So you may have to dissect that information and take from it what you can and figure out what applies to you, what makes sense, what can you ask questions about to really get down to the meat. Because there's three sides of the story. There's yours, mine, and the truth. So when you're reading these reviews, even when it comes from customers, you still have to, take it in and be like, is that true? Or maybe did something happen here where it maybe didn't exactly happen like that? But everybody can't tell the same lie either. So if you're seeing different patterns, that's how you know the things that you want to maybe ask questions about. All right. So here's an example job posting. So it's for an operations manager posting that's at Amazon, right? So you see most of the job postings. I'll say this when the job posting is actually written effectively, okay? Because a lot of times the job posting is not even good enough for you to get information from it. So I'm totally aware of that. But here we are talking about a good job posting, all right? So it's going to have a description of maybe the company, the department that you'll be working with. It may even point to who you report to in that opportunity. It has the job responsibilities, the basic qualifications, and then you've got the preferred qualifications, right? So you know what they're looking for. You've read everything and you're like, yep, that's me. I'm going to apply for this opportunity. But then where do you start your research with that? Because you don't know anybody who works at Amazon, right? And then the people that you do know, maybe they're not responding to you, to your messages, because that's kind of what happens in the real world. So what you can do is use AI to help you with some of that research. So we're going to use, say, Chat GPT, for instance, right? So you can use this prompt. I'm a job seeker. I'm interviewing for an operations manager role at Amazon. You can insert whatever job title you want and whatever company you want. This will work for that. You just switch it out to fit you. Provide 3 facts about that Amazon operations team that I can use in my interview, and also provide 5 pros and 5 cons from employee reviews. So this will help kind of speed up that process. So you're not having to go to all these different sites and find these reviews, find the cons. You've got the information all together in one place super fast. Now, I will say when you are looking at research, AI is going to be behind. Right? It's going to be behind a little. So it's not going to give you up to the minute information a lot of times when you're looking at these reviews. So I'm completely aware of that. But even when you're on Glassdoor or any other site looking at reviews, a lot of times those reviews aren't up to the minute either. But what you want to use AI for is to help you speed up the process so you're not spending all of that time, because you don't have a whole lot of time, right? You only have a certain portion in the day. You still got to eat, sleep, and take care of your family. So you want to do these things fast, but you want to gather a lot of information so that you can piece it together and use it for your benefit. So when you use a prompt like this, it will pop back some results that look like this. So you've got information about the operations team. You also have information about the pros and the cons. So in this case, some of the pros were career growth, competitive compensation, which a lot of times when we're looking at Amazon, we automatically say, okay, Amazon, Google, those types of companies, they typically are known for their higher salaries. So we see, yep, there's some truth to that. You're also looking at a challenging work environment. All right, so what is that about challenging? Because what may be challenging for one person may not be challenging for another. So it looks like for this that it's fast paced, it's a dynamic environment. It's also stimulated and challenging, and provides employees with a chance to be involved in different projects. So if that sounds like something that you want to do, this may be an opportunity for you. Now you look at the cons, like, everything can't be all great and roses and flowers. So, give me the good stuff. Tell me the truth, right? So it's high pressure and stress. They're talking about long hours. So again, to make sure that you're asking questions about those long hours, getting a better idea of what that truly means, and how often those things will happen. So this will help you get your questions together. That there are high turnover rates. If you're applying to a position and you see this position has been posted 6 times in the last 2 years, you may want to ask some follow-up questions to help you better understand what is happening, what is going wrong. All right. If they have rigid metrics, then you want to understand, what is the company going to do to support me when it comes to meeting my goals? Are these goals clearly defined? Those are the types of questions that you want to ask when you find out this information. And also, it says that there's a limited work-life balance. So again, if that is the reason why why you're wanting to leave your current role or why you left your last position, then you know you need to ask some questions so that history doesn't repeat itself. Okay. So this is going to help you get the information that you need just in a quick way so that you can use that information to then develop your follow-up questions that you want to ask in the interview. All right, so that's one thing that I want you to start using AI. And remember, you can use any source for that. You can use ChatGPT, Claude. JobScan has a lot of features that you can use with that as well. So it really doesn't matter what AI tool you are using. Just make sure that you're using it to speed up time. That's the focus of it. It is, like I said, some information may be a little bit behind, but what you're doing, you can still ask about those things that are important to you to see how things have changed over time. Because if an employee 2 years ago was complaining about something and then nothing has been done about that, that could sort of give you an idea of how that company moves, right? So I'll take a few questions before we move on. A few questions before we move on. See a few in the chat. Okay, somebody said that they want the prompt. I will give you an opportunity if you stay to the end. You will get this prompt, any prompts that I'm showing you today, and you'll get a lot of other cool prompts too that you can use for your interview. Hey, so just stick around, stick around. All right. Somebody said Glassdoor is great because the reviews can't be modified by the companies. Are there other similar sites? Yeah. So there's a lot of different sites, and what you can do is probably you can use AI to ask what are the best sites to look for employee reviews that can't be modified. So you want to be very specific when you're asking AI those questions, but really just talk to AI like it's your friend. Ask the questions that you want to, things that you want to know, and it can point you to the sites, and you can ask, and and also provide the source so that it'll give you a clickable link that you can go to and see that information on your own. But yes, I do appreciate the fact when you're able to give a review and then companies can't go in and modify. I want you guys to also be aware that some companies do provide incentives to their employees when it comes to those employee reviews. Okay. I worked for one. I'm not going to say which one it was, but I worked for somewhere that they were giving incentives to employees to say something good about the companies. So be careful with that. That's why you want to collect all of the information that you can and make a decision on your own. If it does not feel right, it's not right. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It needs to feel right for you because you're the one who has to work for that company. You have to suffer the consequences if things don't go right. All right. So do what feels good for you. Always trust your gut. All right. Um, let's see. What should you do to double check the accuracy of the results? I'm not sure what you mean with the with AI. You always research in any information that you got from AI. Always research it. Yes, Perplexity AI is definitely great for company research. Yep, that's a good one. Let's see. How do I know how many times a position has been reposted in the last few years? Pooja, you probably won't know exactly, but if you've seen it, we see positions that are posted and reposted again all the time. So it would be, an instance where you see it. That's usually the only way that you'll know. You see it. And the good thing that I like about LinkedIn when you have those postings is that if you search for a position and a position has been filled, you still can access that posting. So you can see it a lot of times. All right, another question. Sometimes I submit my prompt a couple of separate times to evaluate the different responses. Yes. And then depending on the version of AI that you're using, it will ask you which version you like best. You also can use different tools and ask it the same prompt to see whether or not the results are different. But the biggest thing here is that you want to use it to speed up the process of you going from site to site, Googling things over and over again to find that information. AI can do that within a matter of seconds. All right, let's see. Some of these questions I'm skipping because I already addressed those. You guys were typing faster than I could talk. Um, Roxanne said, I have had terrible experiences with Glassdoor. They won't let me in. I haven't done a review, but it won't say. Yeah, sometimes if you don't sign up with an account or It won't save the review because of your email address or, or something like that, but go for the information that is actually there that you have available to you. You can't do anything, for the info. You can't do anything about somebody said, yeah, it's unethical. Yeah, it's very unethical. You can't do anything about that. But what you can do is collect as much information as possible so that you can make an educated decision for yourself. All right. Let's see. Let's see. I think that is about it for questions. If there are other questions, we'll have another place to ask those. So let's move right along. All right. So when you are gathering your accomplishments when it comes to building your resume and preparing for your interview, I want you to start looking at things because sometimes this is a struggle for a lot of clients and a lot of job seekers that follow me. Whether it's on LinkedIn or any other social media site, and I'm talking about these career related issues. Is I don't have accomplishments. I haven't tracked anything. My company doesn't do performance reviews. I don't know what I did well. So you have to think about, your performance reviews. Of course, that's a great go-to place to go. You can look for comments from your annual reviews. You can also look at emails that you may have gotten that gave you kudos, whatever you got a pat on the back for at work. Any recognitions that you get. Did you read? Did you get an award? Did you do something that you're proud of that maybe you didn't get any credit for at all? That is the beauty about building your own resume and interviewing for a role. You get to tell your story. You get to tell it. You get to design that narrative however it fits for you. Don't worry about what your company didn't do. You have an opportunity to give yourself credit for the things that you have done. So if you got any praise from customers, maybe that customer didn't send you an email, but maybe they told you over the phone that you fixed their particular issue. Then go back and look at that scenario and see how you can frame that in a way that's relevant to your target job, and also that puts you in a very positive light because it's relevant to the position, and it also shows whether it's your communication skills, it may show your relationship building skills, it may show your analytical skills. Whatever it is, you gather those accomplishments. You may not have numbers don't make sense a lot of the times, right? It depends on the type of job you have. You may not have access to those numbers, or you may not be able to release those numbers just because it may be some company secrets that you could be, giving away. So what you want to do in those instances is look at opportunities to where maybe something was wrong before and you did something to make it right. Or maybe a process dragged on for, maybe 7 days and you chopped it down and it only takes you 2 days to do that now. Now you got a way to quantify that. So quantifying can be done in different ways other than numbers. It can be quantified by you doing something better. Okay. So don't feel bad if your resume doesn't have numbers as long as you're able to show how you improved something. Okay. So I would much rather you have an instance where you said that you were able to save some money and not be able to, pinpoint that exact amount versus you not saying that you saved money at all. So do the best that you can in that particular scenario. All right. So let's talk about some job interview basics. So, things that I want you to always remember is that interviewing is a two-way street. Your interview is either going to be virtual or it's going to be in person. So, when I say virtual, it's either going to be a phone interview, it could be a Zoom interview, it could be one of those one-way interviews, which I loathe. I loathe those types of interviews because they're so awkward because you feel like you're talking to yourself and it seems like no matter what, you don't have enough time. But there are ways that you can practice for those interviews. You can record yourself on your phone. You can record yourself even in, on a just a regular old school recorder. You can use your laptop for that, to just practice with somebody answering the questions with a timer. A lot of times when things are timed, it puts the pressure on you. Now it's increasing your anxiety and all of those things. It happens to me. I've been on radio, I've been on TV, I've done a lot of Zoom interviews, I've done a lot of presentations like this, and it does not mean that I don't get the same anxiety that you do, but practice makes perfect. Now you'll have your standard interview, or maybe you're just interviewing with you and one other person. You can have a panel interview, but I want you to remember always you have already earned your spot because they invited you to the interview. Okay. So the interview is not the time for you to feel like you have to prove that you deserve to be there. You already deserve to be there. That's a given. They invited you there. Okay. So you've already earned that spot. So all you need to do is just explain your experiences and your accomplishments in a way that resonates with that employer. That is it. The pressure of you feeling like, oh, I've got to prove that I'm qualified for this job. That's out there. You already believe that you're qualified for the job because you earned the interview. You already got the interview. Okay. So that's a way that you can kind of take that power back, so that you can feel like, okay, this is just me having a conversation with this person. This is just me talking to them and translating my work experiences into something that makes sense for them. The better you're able to do that, the more likely you are to move on to further stages of the job. I think a lot of times we get so wrapped up in how our current company or our past company has explained things. And so we really can't connect the dots with the person that we're interviewing with. So then it kind of goes in one ear and out the other because we feel like you're speaking a completely different language. Your biggest benefit is going to be translating that information into something that is easily digestible for your interviewer so that they can connect the dots and say, aha, this person understands what I need. This person is the answer to my issue. So the more questions you ask about what it is that the company needs or what that recruiter is looking for, because remember, the recruiter needs you to pass those interviews, because a lot of times that's how we keep our job, because we're able to pass on great candidates to our hiring teams and those people get hired. We need you as recruiters. We need our candidates to do well in the interview. So ask your recruiter the questions that you need to ask them. Now, make sure that you're asking appropriate interview question, depending on who's interviewing you. Because if you want to know stuff about more about the day to day, more about the nitty gritty of the projects, then that's probably a question for the hiring team. The recruiter, a lot of times, especially if it's a corporate recruiter, when I say recruiter, I'm talking about an in-house corporate recruiter who is filling a position at a particular company. Okay. So that person typically is going to have a lot of the HR knowledge. They're going to have a lot of process knowledge. They may have some information about the day to day because we do have intake calls with our hiring managers. But when you're thinking about the more technical aspects of that job, then those questions are better asked of the hiring team, not necessarily that recruiter. So just make sure whatever questions you're asking are appropriate for the person that you're talking to. So if you're meeting with the hiring manager, asking a question about benefits is probably not appropriate at that point. They may know some things to a point, but that's really not their lane. Okay. So just make sure that those questions are appropriate. All right. So, common themes in your interviews, this is regardless of what level, regardless of the type of position that you're interviewing for, it's going to focus on these types of areas: teamwork, communication, initiative, problem solving, planning and organizing, leadership, and adaptability. Most all interview questions will fall in these categories. Okay. It doesn't matter if they are yes or no questions, if they're just your regular basic interview questions, or if there's those behavioral based interview questions where it's tell me about a time, or give me an instance, give me an example, those types of things. Those are the types of questions that you're looking for. So all of them will fall into these categories. All right. So some of the common questions that trip a lot of people up is tell me about yourself. Now, a lot of these questions can be asked different ways, but they all go back to the same foundational question. So tell me about yourself. You may be asked this question to, it may be asked, walk me through your resume. It may be them, just, asking, why we should hire you. Those types of questions usually go hand in hand. So, in instances, you need to be able to answer either one of those questions. We are not looking for something long and drawn out and robotic. You can, definitely rehearse your responses, but you want them to be fluid. Remember, it is a conversation. So when you're telling them about yourself, you're telling them about yourself as it relates to the role. So always remember that information needs to be relevant and tied into the job, and it really needs to build up about the experience that you've gained so far and how you will use that experience to benefit this particular role or company. What are your salary expectations? You got to research first, because even if you say I want to make $10,000 more than I made in my last job, well, if you were already 30K underpaid, that 10K is not going to help you get to where you should be. So research the market value. Also, when you're talking about your strengths and weaknesses, try not to default to the things that are very, just very cliche, or you're talking about you're a perfectionist and you do not know. Put it in a frame of, think about those things that you worked on, like real life scenarios. Like for me, I had a hard time with the stopping point. I could not stop. So I had an issue with time management. And so I took trainings. I actually worked with my supervisor and did the things that I needed to do to get that feedback on how I should have handled situations. And now I can better manage my schedule, and it's in knowing that it's okay to leave things for the next day. Right. So that is usually an example that I've given in a couple of interviews, because it really was something that I struggled with and I fixed it. Right. When I'm talking about my strengths, remember to point out strengths that you really are good at. So you don't need to say that I'm good at with attention to detail, yet you've got 1,000 mistakes that you've made in your information. Okay. So it has to align, it has to make sense. All right. So any questions? Let's look at the chat and see whether we got questions. All right. I've got to scroll through because some of these have already been already taken that. All right, let me scroll. I don't think. All right, I don't think we have any questions yet. So let's move on to a couple more prompts, okay? All right, so behavioral based interviews. So, kind of what is this? This is when I like to use the PAR format. I think some of you may have heard it as the STAR format, but I feel like the STAR is a little more clunky and it adds more steps and it makes it a little harder for you to talk in just a regular conversation when you're thinking about how to frame a question. So, PAR or CAR works good for me. And so, since we're talking in terms of PAR, we're looking at the problem, the action, and the result. So, what was going on in the situation? What wasn't working? What was the situation? What was happening here? And then the action is, how did you handle it? What role did you play in fixing that particular problem? And then the outcome. Let's talk about what happened in the end. I know a lot of times it's easy for you guys to kind of flip over into, you start speaking French when it comes to these interviews. You start saying we did this, we did that, we were doing this, we were doing. Remember, it is okay to talk about it in terms of teams, but you are the one interviewing. So talk specifically about what you did as a member of that team that did the overall thing, right? So always put the focus back on you and what you did. Okay. So when you are talking in terms of the problem and the action, sometimes y'all forget the result. And so I need you to make sure that you're always finishing with the result. Okay. And then when you put it on your resume, it's going to be, you're going to be able to use that resume scenario to translate into your interview, because a lot of times what you list on your resume, it becomes an interview question because we want to know more about that, especially if it's a good accomplishment. Now I'm intrigued. Now I want to know more. So you have to be able to speak to those things as well. All right, so when you're looking at a PAR scenario, so here we have a problem. So the branch was underperforming due to lack of services and customer care, and they needed to find out why the customers weren't utilizing all the resources available to them. So as an action, this person created a satisfaction survey to gather feedback from the customers on the services they wanted to see be implemented, right? So the result of that is that they begin offering periodic check-ins and introducing new features, and they in turn got 100 customers to return to that particular branch within 3 months. So when you're thinking about how this is your interview scenario. So how do you translate it to put it on your resume? So it's PAR for the interview, RAP for the resume. Okay. So for RAP, we've got the result first. So we reacquired 100 customers at the underperforming branch in 90 days. That is the result. And then the how is the action and the problem by conducting a satisfaction survey and offering new product features. Right. So that is how you would list it on your resume. Okay. So you see how these go hand in hand. So if you've got the wrap version on your resume where you've got that front loaded, action packed accomplishment bullet, you need to be able to speak to and give more information to tell that story or give that scenario in your interview. So if you remember that PAR for the interview, wrap for the resume. You're going to put the result first and then tell the how, because the action and the problem, that's the how or the what was happening, right? For the resume, it's not necessarily to go too far into the problem, because your result is pretty much going to give that. So it wouldn't be necessary here for the resume piece for you to say that, there was a problem with the underperforming piece is given a little bit of what that problem was, right? Because it was underperforming. So that is how you, add the result first and then include the action in the problem, to give you the how. Right. So that's a quick little acronym that I like to use, that helps me and my clients with their interviews and also their resumes. All right. So some of the interview mistakes that I see, some of these seem like no brainers, but I'm telling you, it's 2025 and this stuff's still happening. Being late for the interview, having technology issues, always go in and make sure that your internet connection is great. Test it with somebody else. Make sure that you're not having any type of service issues. And if you are, don't panic. Stuff happens. Stuff happens, right? Just keep your interviewer informed. Messy backgrounds and distractions. You got to make sure that there's nothing going on in your background. There's no cats jumping off of stuff. I've had my dog jump in my lap before when I was interviewing somebody. So embarrassing, right? But I had to make sure but that was my fault. I did not close my dogs up before I got on that interview, right? When you're asking no-brainer interview questions, meaning that you're asking, what does this job do? What does this company do? If you're asking those types of questions, you didn't do your research. If you have inappropriate attire, try not to put screen tees where you got and I may be aging myself here by even saying screen tees, but when you've got writing on your shirts, when you've got busy designs, those types of things can make those like those wavy lines. Online, I had to learn this on TV. Certain patterns just don't perform well when it comes to your interviewer. You're interviewing, not asking questions at all. The worst thing you can do is say no in an interview. When somebody asks you a question, do you have questions? And then you say no. You always have questions. There's always something that you need to ask to be able to make a decision. When you don't follow up or you don't say thank you. I know some people say, oh, it doesn't matter. You don't have to say thank you. People don't read it anyway. A lot of times your information doesn't get read because it's cookie cutter. You are not saying anything different than anybody else. The same way that you don't like those automated responses when you apply for jobs or when you get rejected from roles, probably don't send automated messages to when you're saying thank you or when you're submitting your cover letter. The same thing applies to you too. And also not asking for feedback. And I have some information that I want to give you about feedback too. The feedback issue is that a lot of companies have restrictions on whether or not they can even give you feedback. So there are certain things that they're not really going to be able to answer. Ask it for sure, because it's not going to hurt you to ask and then them not be able to give you, feedback. But a lot of times you want that feedback because you want them to justify why they didn't hire you. It's not that you really want to know something because because you want to learn something about how you can improve. You want them to justify, why didn't you hire me for this job? Because I know I'm qualified. So just understand the place of where that feedback is coming from, and don't get your feelings too wrapped up in that. And I say that not to disregard the fact that your feelings are involved in it. Job searching is emotional, but sometimes you do have to remove that in order to be able to protect your peace, in order to be able to protect your mental health. I have been there. I have been on both sides of the table. I have been, on the chopping block for being fired. I have been laid off. I have been looking for jobs and people not hiring me for things that I knew I can do in my sleep, right? So I have been there, and it is emotional, but sometimes you have to step outside of that. So be careful when it comes to asking, for that feedback and your expectations, but always give it a shot, because somebody may be willing to tell you. They may be able to, to give you some information there. All right. So I have an interview questions prompt, but before I give you that, okay, I want you to scan this QR code. It's going to take you about 2 minutes. To answer just a couple of little questions, and then you'll be able to get your download. Is going to be using AI for your job search, right? So I'm going to give you these prompts. So I think it's maybe about 6 or so of my favorite interview prompts, because we don't have enough time in the day to go over them all. But I am going to give you those prompts. For those of you who are watching this on your phone, here is the link. I have it spelled out, and you can use the code JobScan in order to be able to access your download. But you get the free download. I'm not going to get your email and start spamming you, right? It's going to ask for that. But I'm not going to start spamming you. It's just for you to be able to download and get your information. I just want to make sure that everybody's getting it, just in case there's some sort of issue and we've got it. But take your 2 minutes. When you are complete, I want you to comment in the chat and say done, and then we're going to go over a few more questions. All right, this will take you 2 minutes. I see some. I'm going to go through some of these chat questions to see if we have some questions to pull out here. Seeing everything is moving fast, trying to catch up. All right, just one more minute, one more minute. Be sure to comment done in the chat so I know that you're done. If I see a good amount of dones, we're going to move on and wrap things up. I'm seeing some dones come in. Yvette says she did the job scan yesterday and went from 51% to 97%. That is awesome. That is awesome. Job scan is a great tool for keyword optimization when you're trying to make sure that your resume is aligning with the position. And that can also help you with the interview because, again, those resumes are going to lead to those interview conversations. Yeah, if you're scanning the QR code, it is not going to ask you for a code. The code is just for people who are on their phones and can't scan the QR code at the same time. All right, good deal. I'm seeing a bunch of dones here, seeing a bunch of dones. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Hold on one second. So the link is https://talk.ac/Ashley Thomas. That is the link. All right, so JobScan put the link in the comments. So grab the link from there if you need it. All right, and we're going to move on, and you guys can continue to go through and answer your questions so you can get your download. All right, let's move on here. So here's the interview questions prompt. So I'm interviewing for this position at Amazon. Provide 10 interview questions based on this job description. And then you're going to put the job description there. And when you use that prompt, it is going to pull up several questions. And it's also going to separate some of those questions out by area. So remember, I said a lot of them are going to have leadership. It's going to talk about communication. It's also talking about your flexibility, which goes in with your adaptability. But these are some of the interview questions that you can use. And if you downloaded the AI prompts from that we just did from the QR code, you will get a prompt that will help you come up with your responses as well. So this is a great predictor for the type of questions that can be asked based on a particular type of job. So you have no reason to say that, oh, the job description was bad, and so I don't know any interview questions to ask. You can get AI to help you with that because sometimes it's going to pull information from operations managers at other companies too. And so that's what I advise you to do when you are looking at even to keyword optimize your resume. I want you to start looking at other similar jobs at similar companies too, because not all job descriptions are created equally. So if you are looking at targeting your resume for a particular, type of position, look and see what other companies are doing too, because that can give you some insights into the types of things that you may want to include in your resume as well. That will help you when those job descriptions are terrible, because I see a lot of terrible postings out there. All right, so that is one of the interview questions prompts. All right, so here are some follow-up questions that you can ask. I'm going to go through just some basic ones, and then I'll do some. I added some ones that are for leadership too, because those are usually the types of clients that I work with. But when do you expect to make a final decision? That is definitely a question you because you want to know, the time frame for these interviews because it will help to settle your nerves, right? Because knowing what to expect will help you understand when you need to follow up. If you're not giving any information, I would say 5 business days before you start following up. If 5 business days have passed, it is okay to follow up. If you want to say 5 business days or 1 week, follow up, ask the questions. Okay. Sometimes you may have to ask a question more than once. You may have to send more than one follow up before you get somebody to respond. You have to think about it, especially in this job market. There are hundreds of people that are being interviewed for multiple positions. I used to carry a workload. Sometimes I had up to 60 jobs that I was having to fill, and sometimes I could not get to people fast enough. And so, them sending me a message again to remind me of something so that it didn't fall through the cracks, a lot of times that helped me. So always don't go to the negative and say, oh, they're going to think that I'm a pest. So what? Let them think that you're a pest. Ask the question. Okay. If they don't want to ask your questions, or answer your questions, or they don't want you asking questions at all, that may give you a clue into whether or not you want to be on that team in general. Right. So asking about next steps, great questions. The main priorities of the role in the first 6 months, that is something that is really good. You want to know, like, what am I up against? Am I going to be working on things that I find enjoyable? What challenges do you anticipate? What is it? How does this company support work-life balance? Again, if that was an issue at your last job, you want to be asking those questions to make sure you're not getting yourself into the same situation again. So these are just some general basic questions you're going to ask. You're going to have to ask that information, to, like I said, to help you make those, make better decisions when it comes to, okay, do I want to even go to this next interview? Do I want to work for this company? Right. So these are just basic things. Ask things that are very specific to your situation, but this will give you a starting point. Okay. And then some more questions that you can ask, especially when you're leaning over into those senior level or leadership type roles, is, tell me about a recent department success. If they can't tell you what's been successful to happen in their job, if the manager isn't tracking their own success in the department, how are they going to be tracking yours? So that can give you some insight into how leadership actually, rates success. How do they view success? How do they track it? Also, really what really would make me want to work in this, in this department. That's kind of where those questions need to be, focused. If you're a leader, you want to know how much autonomy you're going to have in that role to make decisions, because sometimes you get into those leadership roles and you really are not allowed to be a leader. Right? You're really not allowed to be the manager that you thought you were hired to be. So make sure that you're asking those questions. Think about some of the biggest challenges that they're hoping to address when you first start. You may want to ask questions about the orientation structure. Talk about what is your involvement with stakeholders, with the executive team. How is this position, how do they fit into the grand scheme of things? But think about your, what's important to you, and definitely you want to go, make sure that you are doing your due diligence at the end of the day. That's really what it's all about. All right, so another thing, like I said, say thank you. That email needs to be sent within 48 hours. Personalize the message based on who interviewed you. That means each person needs a separate interview. We're not sending group messages, right? You send it to each person. Make sure that you're addressing the right person in the right company, and make sure that you're checking for errors. And again, remember, for feedback, not knowing where you stand in the process, that creates a whole lot of stress and it can be super frustrating. And know that certain policies prevent people from being able to give you performance feedback, but instead focusing on understanding the hiring process and also partnering with a reliable source that can help you uncover some of the things that you need. So that could be a coach, that could be a recruiter, that could be an employee, that could be a partner, a friend, a spouse. Just get with somebody so that you can get some real life feedback about how you present yourself and how you align with the role. All right, so here's how you can connect with me. You can send me an email if you have questions. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. My handle is at Ashley J. Watkins. You can find me at Ashley Watkins Thomas on LinkedIn as well, whichever is easiest for you. Or you can visit me online at rightstepresumes.com. All right. And I will try to put some information in there, but go ahead with your questions. I'll leave this here, but I may have a few seconds just for questions.
There I am.
And
Okay.
remember, when you connect with me, you do not have to send me you don't have to do a personal note. Don't waste an email on me. I'm going to accept it. Okay.
Yeah, that was an awesome session. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, we're gonna we don't have time for Q&A, but make sure you connect with Ashley, of course, on LinkedIn, and you can ask her any questions there as well.
Yes.
Our next session coming up is with Kiana Carter. So she's going to go through, help you avoid some common pitfalls on your job applications. This was awesome, actually. Ashley, so much information. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all in the next session. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.